The envelope was thick, legal weight paper. The return address was from Patterson and Cole, attorneys at law. I didn't recognize the firm, but I recognized the defendant's name typed in bold beneath the case number, Giselle Marie Chen. That was me. The plaintiff? Brandon Michael Chen. My son. I stood in my kitchen, still wearing the lavender cardigan Mia had told me made me look like a fairy grandmother, and I read the words again. My son was suing me for invasion of privacy, harassment, and emotional distress. He was requesting a restraining order. A restraining order. From his own mother. My hands didn't shake. They should have, but they didn't. 34 years as an ER nurse teaches you to stay calm when everything's falling apart. I set the papers on the counter next to the cooling rack where I'd been planning to bake snickerdoodles for Mia. She'd asked for them last week when I picked her up from school. Brandon had been too busy with his startup's investor meeting to get her. Amber had been filming content for her wellness channel. I'd picked Mia up 47 times that school year. I kept count. Not because I was resentful, but because I wanted to remember. Because being needed felt like the only currency I still had. The lawsuit said I'd entered their home without consent on March 15th. That was a lie. I had a key. Brandon gave it to me 3 years ago when Mia was born premature, when Amber had postpartum depression, when their smart home system kept glitching and locking them out. "Mom," he'd said, pressing the key into my palm, "I don't know what we'd do without you." March 15th was the day I'd let myself in to drop off groceries. They'd been in Cabo for Amber's content retreat. Mia was staying with Amber's sister in Seattle. I'd texted Brandon, "Stocking your fridge so you have fresh food when you're back." Left the key on the counter. He'd replied with a thumbs-up emoji. The lawsuit said I'd been surveilling them through their security cameras, that I'd repeatedly accessed their home network, that I'd violated the sanctity of their private space. What I'd actually done was notice, on their kitchen camera feed, that they'd left the stove on. I'd driven over at 11 p.m. and turned it off. I'd texted Brandon a screenshot. He'd written back, "TX, Mom, lifesaver." Now I was being sued for being a lifesaver. I called my friend Donna. She'd been my charge nurse for 15 years before we both retired. She listened without interrupting, which was rare for Donna. "Giselle," she finally said, "when was the last time you actually talked to Brandon?" Not texted, talked. I thought about it. Mia's birthday. 6 weeks ago. And what did you talk about? Whether the bounce house company needed a deposit? Donna was quiet for a moment. "You need a lawyer. A good one." I didn't want a lawyer. I wanted my son to call me and say this was a mistake, a clerical error, something his attorney filed without his knowledge. But the next morning, I received a follow-up email from Brandon's lawyer. The subject line read, "Cease and desist. Immediate compliance required." I was instructed to return the house key within 48 hours, delete all access to their smart home system, cease all unannounced visits and communications, stay at least 500 feet away from their residence and Mia's school, 500 feet from Mia's school, where I volunteered every Thursday reading to second graders, where I was room parent for Mia's class, where I'd helped organize the winter fundraiser that bought new playground equipment. I read the email 3 times. Then I did something I hadn't done since my husband died 12 years ago. I opened the cupboard above the refrigerator, pulled out the bottle of bourbon he'd saved for special occasions, and poured myself 2 fingers. It burned going down. I poured another. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Just so you know, Brandon's really upset. We've tried to set boundaries with you for months, but you don't listen. We need space to be a family. Please respect that." Boundaries, space, family. Words that sounded reasonable until you remembered that I'd been the one in the delivery room when Mia was born because Brandon was stuck in traffic. I was the one who stayed up 72 hours straight when Mia had croup and stopped breathing twice. I was the one who'd quietly transferred $30,000 to Brandon's account when his last startup failed and he couldn't make his mortgage payment. I'd never asked for the money back. I'd never even mentioned it again. But I had the bank transfer receipt. I kept all my financial records in a filing cabinet in my garage, organized by year and month, because I was still, at heart, a nurse who believed in documentation. I hired an attorney named Marcus Reeves. He was 62, a grandfather of 5, and when I showed him the lawsuit, he took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Mrs. Chen," he said, "I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you ever go into their home when they specifically told you not to?" "No. I had a standing invitation to drop by any time Brandon's words." "Did you access their security system without permission?" "They added me as an authorized user 3 years ago. I never removed myself because no one asked me to." "And the communication? The texts? The calls?" I pulled out my phone and showed him. 3 texts a week, on average. Usually logistics about Mia, often initiated by Brandon or Amber asking me to pick up Mia, watch Mia, bring Mia something she'd forgotten. Marcus scrolled through months of messages. "This doesn't look like harassment. This looks like co-parenting." "I'm not her parent." "No," he said, handing back my phone. "But you've been doing a lot of the parenting. And I'd bet money that's what this is really about." He was right. 2 days later, during our case preparation, Marcus discovered the real reason for the lawsuit. Amber's mother had moved from Arizona to Portland. She wanted to be more involved with Mia. She'd apparently told Amber that having 2 grandmothers around was confusing for children, and that boundaries with in-laws were essential for healthy family dynamics. Amber's mother, Patricia, was a retired family therapist. She had degrees and TED Talk quotes and a blog about toxic enmeshment. She'd convinced Brandon and Amber that my presence in their lives was pathological, that I was preventing them from bonding as a nuclear family, that my over-involvement was a form of emotional manipulation. The irony was so sharp it could cut glass. For 3 years, my involvement had been essential. Now, suddenly, it was toxic. Marcus filed a response to the lawsuit. He included the bank transfer receipt for the $30,000. He included a sworn statement from Mia's pediatrician, who noted that I was listed as an emergency contact and had brought Mia to 17 appointments when her parents were unavailable. He included character references from 3 teachers at Mia's school. He also filed a counterclaim. Not for the money, I'd told him I didn't want the money back, but for grandparent visitation rights under Oregon law. I wanted a legal guarantee that I could see Mia, that I could still be part of her life. Brandon's attorney responded with a 50-page brief arguing that I was psychologically unstable, that my obsessive behavior around Mia was harmful, and that I needed professional help to address my codependency issues. I read the brief in Marcus's office. When I finished, I set it down very carefully on his desk. "They're going to put me on trial," I said. "Yes," Marcus said. "They are." The preliminary hearing was scheduled for June 12th. I had 2 months to prepare. 2 months of not seeing Mia, not texting Brandon, not driving past their house, even though it was on my route to the grocery store. 2 months of wondering if my granddaughter thought I'd abandoned her. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake at 2 a.m., thinking about Mia asking where I was, thinking about Brandon explaining that Grandma Giselle had boundary issues, thinking about Amber's mother stepping in, doing all the things I used to do, erasing me from Mia's life like I was a mistake that needed correcting. Donna came over one night and found me surrounded by photo albums. Pictures of Brandon as a baby, as a kid, graduating high school, getting married. Pictures of me and Mia baking cookies, playing dress-up, reading books in the big armchair I'd bought specifically because it was wide enough for both of us. "You need to stop torturing yourself," Donna said. "I need to remember," I said. "I need to remember that this version of Brandon, the one who's suing me, isn't the whole story. That somewhere inside him is the boy who used to save his Halloween candy to share with me, who called me every Sunday from college just to talk, who cried at his father's funeral and told me he didn't know how to be a man without him. And I said, 'You already are one.'" Donna sat down next to me. "You think he remembers that?" "I don't know, but I do." 3 weeks before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Mia's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, called me. "Mrs. Chen," she said, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I think you should know. Mia's been different since you stopped coming to school. She's withdrawn. She doesn't talk during circle time. Last week, she asked me if people could die from missing someone too much. My throat closed. What did you tell her? I told her that missing someone means you love them, and love never hurts us. But Giselle, I'm worried about her. I wanted you to know. I thanked her and hung up. Then I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and cried for the first time since I'd received the lawsuit. The hearing was held in a small courtroom with fluorescent lights and an American flag in the corner. Judge Catherine Morrison presided. She was in her late 50s, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Brandon sat at the plaintiff's table with Amber and their attorney, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he did Pilates. I sat with Marcus. We didn't look at each other, Brandon and I. I wanted to. I wanted to catch his eye and have him see me, really see me, and recognize what he was doing. But he kept his gaze fixed forward. His attorney spoke first. He painted a picture of me as an overbearing, intrusive woman who couldn't accept that her son had grown up and started his own family. He talked about the constant texts, the uninvited visits, the violation of their smart home system. He called me controlling. He called me manipulative. He didn't call me mom when it was Marcus's turn. He was calm. He entered the bank transfer into evidence. He entered the text messages showing Brandon and Amber requesting my help. He entered the school records showing my volunteer hours. Then he did something I didn't expect. He called Amber to the stand. Under oath, Marcus asked her a simple question. Mrs. Chen, how many times did you or your husband ask the plaintiff to help with childcare in the past year? Amber shifted in her seat. I don't remember the exact number. More than 20? Probably. More than 50? Her attorney objected. Judge Morrison overruled it. Answer the question, Mrs. Chen. Maybe. Yes. And did you compensate her for this childcare? She's family. We didn't think. Yes or no? No. Marcus entered a document into evidence. It was a cost analysis he'd prepared showing that the childcare I'd provided, if billed at Portland's average rate, would have cost Brandon and Amber approximately $18,000 over 3 years. And the $30,000 the plaintiff transferred to your joint account in 2022, Marcus continued. Did you pay that back? We had an understanding that it was a gift. Did Mrs. Giselle Chen ever, in writing or verbally, say it was a gift? Amber looked at Brandon. No. But she never asked for it back, because she's not the kind of person who asks, Marcus said quietly. She's the kind of person who gives and gives and gives. Until you decide you don't want her anymore, Brandon's attorney objected. It was sustained. But the point had been made. Then came the moment everything changed. Judge Morrison asked if there was any additional evidence. Marcus nodded. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibit F, a series of video recordings. He played them on a laptop connected to the courtroom screen. They were TikTok videos, posted to a private account under the username @MiaBean2017. There were 11 of them. The first showed Mia sitting on her bed, holding a stuffed elephant I'd given her. Hi, Grandma Giselle, she whispered to the camera. I'm not supposed to call you or text you, so I'm making these videos instead. Mommy doesn't know. I miss you. The second video, Mia in the bathroom, tears on her face. I heard Daddy say you're not allowed to come to my school anymore. Did I do something bad? Is that why you left? The third, Mia, showing a drawing she'd made. It was 2 stick figures holding hands. One was labeled Mia, the other was labeled Grandma G. There was a big red X over both of them. Each video was a knife. By the 8th one, where Mia said, I wish I had a magic wand to bring you back, I saw Amber wipe her eyes. Where did you obtain these videos? Judge Morrison asked. Mia's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, discovered the account when Mia accidentally left her tablet open in class. She felt it was relevant to the case and provided access with the understanding that the child's welfare is the primary concern here. Judge Morrison watched all 11 videos. The courtroom was silent except for Mia's small voice echoing from the speakers. When the last video ended, Judge Morrison removed her glasses. "Mr. Chen," she said, looking directly at Brandon. "Do you have anything to say?" Brandon stood. His voice was tight. "Your Honor, my mother has difficulty respecting boundaries. We've tried to create healthy space for our family, and I didn't ask about your mother," Judge Morrison interrupted. "I asked if you have anything to say about your daughter. The child we just watched break her own heart trying to reach the one person who's always been there for her." Brandon's jaw worked. He said nothing. Judge Morrison turned to me. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. If I dismiss this lawsuit and grant you visitation rights, what do you want your relationship with your son's family to look like?" I stood. My legs felt shaky. "I don't want to be intrusive. I don't want to overstep. I just want to be allowed to love my granddaughter. If that means scheduled visits, supervised time, whatever parameters they need, I'll follow them. I just want to know that I haven't lost her. And the $30,000? They can keep it. It was never about the money." Judge Morrison made a note. Then she looked at Brandon and Amber. "I'm dismissing the harassment and invasion of privacy claims. The evidence shows that Mrs. Giselle Chen acted at your repeated request and with your explicit permission. What we have here isn't a boundary violation. It's a boundary that was moved without notice and then weaponized." She paused. "However, I'm also not granting Mrs. Chen's counterclaim for visitation rights because I don't think this family needs a court order. I think this family needs to have an honest conversation about what they want versus what that child upstairs in those videos needs." She looked at Mia's videos still frozen on the screen. "I have grandchildren, 4 of them, and if I ever put a legal barrier between them and someone who loved them the way Mrs. Chen clearly loves Mia, I'd hope someone would pull me aside and remind me that childhood is short, that the people who show up when it's hard are the ones you should hold on to, not push away." Judge Morrison closed her folder. "This case is dismissed. You're all free to go. I suggest you use that freedom wisely." We stood. Brandon and Amber left quickly, their attorney trailing behind them. I stayed, gathering my papers slowly, not sure what came next. Marcus touched my shoulder. "That's the best possible outcome." "Is it? Nothing's changed. Give it time." I drove home. The house was dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in my kitchen in the lavender cardigan and thought about Mia's videos, about her saying, "Did I do something bad?" About her thinking love could be a mistake. My phone buzzed at 9:45 p.m. A text from Brandon. "Can we talk?" I called him immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Mom." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about Mia's videos. I didn't know she was." He stopped. "Amber's mom said you were. She made it seem like you were trying to take over, and I believed her because it was easier than admitting that I've been taking advantage of you, that I've been using you without appreciating you." "Brandon, no, let me finish. You gave up your retirement to help us. You gave us money when we were drowning. You've been more present for Mia than I have, and instead of being grateful, I tried to erase you. Because it was easier than looking at myself and realizing I'm failing at the one thing Dad always did, perfectly being there." I closed my eyes. Tears ran down my face. "You're not your father. You don't have to be. You just have to be you, Brandon. The real you. The one I know is still in there." "I want to make this right," he said. "Will you come to dinner tomorrow, please? Mia misses you. We miss you." "Of course," I whispered. "Of course I'll come." The next evening, I drove to their house. Mia answered the door and launched herself at me like I'd been gone for years, not months. She smelled like strawberry shampoo in childhood, and I held her so tight I was afraid I might break her. "Grandma G," she said into my shoulder, "I made you videos." "I know, sweetheart. I saw them. Are you mad?" "No, baby. I could never be mad at you for loving me." Dinner was awkward at first. Amber apologized. So did Brandon. Patricia, notably, wasn't there. Amber said she'd gone back to Arizona for a while to give us space to heal. We didn't fix everything that night. You can't repair 3 months of hurt over one lasagna dinner. But we started, and Mia sat between me and Brandon, her small hand in mine, and I thought about what Judge Morrison had said. Childhood is short. The people who show up are the ones you hold on to. I'd shown up. I was still showing up. And now, finally, so was my son. 2 months later, I picked Mia up from school on a Thursday. It was my day, officially. We'd worked out a schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays, alternating Saturdays, always welcome at family dinners on Sundays, boundaries that felt like bridges instead of walls. Mia climbed into my car with a painting she'd made. It showed 3 stick figures, a big one, a medium one, and a small one, all holding hands, no red X. Mrs. Rodriguez said to give this to you, Mia said. She said it's better than the last one. I looked at the painting, at the 3 of us connected, at the hearts drawn in crayon above our heads. It's perfect, I said. And it was.